Hello and welcome to Code Tutorials. In this video, we're going to cover the installation, registration, and setup of the Key Themes Premium version. We'll also be covering all the options that are exclusive to Key Premium. All the other options are addressed in the introduction to the Key Theme video, where we go over the options for the free version of the theme. And you can find that video linked in the description below. In both this and the earlier video, we explored the global theme options, which are used to set up and adjust your site. During the course of this video, you'll be able to see the effect the premium options have and the combinations you can use them in. This is going to be a thorough overview that will prepare you to start using the premium key theme and tackle making your own site with it. We're starting from the page dedicated to the key theme. Here at the top, you can click on all demos to view all the niches that are represented by the theme's demos and explore which of the design solutions would work for you. If you choose to explore the demos by category, the premium ones will be labeled so you can easily tell them apart. However, with the premium version of the theme, you'll have access to all 150 available demos, which include both the free and the premium ones. You can also filter the view using the link at the top, and then only the premium demos will be displayed. As we cover the theme's options, I'll be using one of these demos to show you the options effects, and it's this one, Bookstore. Let me open it up so we can take a look. And here it is. This is the Bookstore demos homepage. We'll be seeing it again throughout the video as it will help me demonstrate the effects different global theme options can have on your site. This is essentially an e-commerce demo, so the main part of the homepage is occupied by a product list element, but there are also a number of other elements, such as a text marquee, a card slider, and we even have a custom widget area besides the usual ones like the header and footer. This will come in handy later. But before we get off topic, this is the page we'll be working with. Now that we've seen it, we can move over to the WordPress dashboard and get started with the theme setup. And here I have a plain WordPress installation. From here, I need to install my theme. That's done by using the menu on the left-hand side to go to Appearance Themes. And here we have the default WordPress theme that my installation came bundled with. To add a new theme, simply go to this Add New button at the top. This will show you the themes available via WordPress.org. As there are thousands of them, I'll search for the key theme by name. And here it is. Simply click on the Install button to start the process. And once you see the green banner above saying Installed, you can activate the theme to select it as the one you'll be using. Now, in my WordPress installations overview of themes, I have two installed themes, 2022 and Key, with Key being marked as active. The next step is to install Code Essential add-ons. The theme needs this to work properly and get you access to all the options we'll be looking at shortly. By clicking the Install button, you're going to both install and activate the plugin, so it's a 2-for-1. And when it's done, it'll bring us to the Welcome page. That's this. You're going to find some useful links here, such as those for the theme documentation, or our YouTube channel with video tutorials. From here, you can also see a new addition to the WordPress menu on the left, the Code Essential add-ons, which we'll use to access the global theme options. But before we can do that, we need to install a few more plugins so that everything on the theme can be there and will work as it should. Okay, so let's go to the plugin section of the WordPress dashboard. Here we can see all the plugins I have installed. Some came with WordPress, some came with the key theme. The one I want to add now is a new one, so let's go to Add New, and then search for Key Add-ons for Elementor. Click to install. The Key Add-ons are a collection of over 60 free widgets that you can add to your WordPress site to display and style different types of content. They are, in large part, responsible for different elements on the demos pages. Let me activate the plugin. Okay, there. Once the key add-ons are activated, we'll see their welcome page. And on it, we can see this notice at the top. Elementor plugin is required for key add-ons for Elementor to work properly. So we need to go to the plugin section again to install and activate Elementor. Since I can see Elementor in this list, it means it's already installed, so all I need to do is activate it. If you don't see Elementor here, you can go to Add New at the top and search for it as we did Key Add-ons. Okay, now that Elementor has been activated, I can activate Key Add-ons for Elementor. So, back in the Plugins section, simply click on the Activate link. And with their activation, I have this notice that I'm going to click Allow on. It's about data gathering for product improvement purposes. None of the information collected is personal or sensitive, it just helps developers keep everything compatible and performing at its best. Alright, with that done, I'm going to install Code Essential add-ons and Key add-ons again. But these will be the premium versions of those plugins. Therein lies the secret of the premium key theme. By installing these plugins, we're going to introduce additional functionalities to the plain key theme, and we're going to get all kinds of new page building elements and options, which means you don't have to install a whole new theme when you decide to upgrade. You just build on what's already there. So you don't have to worry about anything getting messed up as it's the same base theme. And to add these premium plugins, I'll go to Upload Plugin, then choose File. Let me find the folder where I have the plugin files. Here it is, Key Theme Premium. Now, when you purchase the key theme, these are the exact files you'll receive. Key add-ons for Elementor Premium and Code Essential add-ons Premium. You'll need to install both of these to get all the features and functionalities of the premium key theme. So select the first one, open, and when it uploads, click on Install Now. Alright, then activate plugin. It's very straightforward, you just follow the steps. And now we have the key add-ons for Elementor Premium installed and active. Now for the Code Essential add-ons. Same steps again. Add New, Upload Plugin, and then choose File. The second one now. Open, and Install Now. When it's done installing, activate plugin. And when we check on the plugin list, we'll be able to see Code Essential add-ons Premium. So now we have all the plugins we need. If you decide to import a particular demo that requires something additional, such as WooCommerce, you'll be notified during the import process. So it's not something you have to worry about. There will be a notice if there's anything you need to do. Okay, now I have all the pieces for the theme set up and ready to go. What I need to do next is register the premium products I want to use, namely the Key Add-ons and Code Essential Add-ons Premium plugins. So let's go to Key Add-ons for Elementor and open the registration page. And here you have this input field where you're supposed to add your purchase code. That's the code you got in the post-purchase email. I copied the codes for both premium plugins in a notepad file so I'd have it at hand. Now I'll just copy the code for the Key Add-ons. Just a sec. Paste and register. You'll know the process completed successfully when the Register button gets replaced with the Deregister one. And now we can do the same for Code Essential add-ons. We need to go to its registration page and input the appropriate purchase code there. Again, I'll copy the one I set aside in my notepad file. Just a sec. Okay. Paste. Then register. And here we go. Now that my premium products have been registered, I can import the demo content I've chosen for this tutorial. So let's go to the import page under Code Essential add-ons. Open the premium site demos. If you recall, I chose the premium bookstore demo. To find it quicker, I'll start typing its name in the search bar. And there it is. When you hover over your chosen demo, you get two options: to view it with all its pages or to import it. Since I've already made my choice, I'll go directly to import. In the next step, we're going to see details about our chosen demo. That includes which plugins it needs to work and display properly. You have the list here on the right. Don't be put off by its potential end. If you look closely, you'll see that some of the required plugins are those we've already installed and activated. You can see the light gray tag saying activated next to almost all of them. The only one I don't have already is WooCommerce, a necessary element for any online store. So I'll click to install it. And the great thing about this step is that any other plugins that you need for your demo can be taken care of on this very page. Once the installation is done, click to activate the plugin. With all my required plugins installed and activated, I can move down to the import type option. It lets you pick which part of the content from your chosen demo you want to import. I want everything, so I'll select all in this drop-down. This will create an additional option, Import Attachments. It's enabled by default, and it's responsible for including things such as images in the import. So I want to keep it switched on, and then I can proceed to the Import Demo button underneath. Yes, I'm sure I want to import. Okay. Now you just need to wait for the import to complete. You'll know it's done when you see Import is completed at the bottom. And with that, the setup process is done. Now let's go to the section with the global theme options. It's this one, Code Essential Add-ons. A few brief notes before we start. This tutorial will be covering global theme options for the premium version of the key theme. However, the premium theme contains all the options that the free theme has, combined with additional features and new options that are exclusive to the premium version. In this video, we'll be exploring the options that are unique to the premium key theme. Therefore, you'll find the explanations for all the other options, those that are common to both the free and the premium versions of the theme, in the tutorial introducing the key theme global options. You can find the link to that tutorial both in the pop-up in the corner as well as in the description below. Now, if you watched our tutorial on the global options that you get with the free version of the key theme, and if you haven't, we wholeheartedly recommend you do, you'll know that the options here serve to set site-wide rules and determine the overall style and layout of your pages. They do not serve to add content. These options simply allow us to set how our site and its pages will look. The settings we make here will apply to the entire site, but you will be able to make exceptions using the options within individual pages, if that's something you want to do. Having said all that, let's take a look at the options themselves. We'll start with the general section. Most of the options here overlap the ones we covered in the earlier video tutorial on the key theme's global options. However, there are a few additions. They concern the back to top button. So if we scroll all the way down, among the options used for styling the button, we'll see these: bottom position, right position, width, and height. So one of the premium features of the key theme is this possibility of adjusting the placement and size of the back to top button. So on a live page demo, I need to scroll a bit for the button to appear. Here it is. This is the default back to top button for the demo I'm using. And if I want to change its position, I can use the options in the back end and add 50 pixels of space from the screen bottom and another 50 from the right side. Let's see what that would look like. Save changes and refresh the page. Now if we look, the button has moved away from the corner thanks to the additional space. And other than its position, we can adjust the button itself by setting its width and height. I'll put 40 pixels for both just to show you. Okay, and save changes. Then refresh. And now my button is a lot smaller. The icon within it has shrunk correspondingly. Of course, whether you make it bigger or smaller is entirely up to you. However, as this is just a demonstration of the options effects, I'll clear the settings I made. Just a sec. And save changes. So, that was the premium addition to the general section. The next one we'll be looking at is the logo. Most of the options here you'll recognize, but we have the logo source option, which offers an expanded selection of settings. Other than uploading a logo image, we can also upload an SVG path. It comes with this input field where you can enter your SVG. And of course, the advantage of an SVG logo is that you can style and set everything up within the code. But if you don't feel up to doing that and you just have the simplest graphic, you can still style it using these options below. They cover color changes to the logo, the option of setting a different color on hover, and the possibility of adjusting the icon size. But that's not all. If you're not into images or SVG, you can set a textual logo. This comes with a variety of options, including typography ones. So let's run through what a textual logo might look like together. My current demo logo is this, Fables. It looks like text, but it's actually an image. And by replacing it with text, I'll be able to make all kinds of style adjustments using the theme options. I'll set the same text for my replacement logo. There. I'll save it and let's see the change on the page. Refresh. As you can see, the logo is noticeably different. But I have all these new options to play around with, so let's see what else I can change. I'll make the text color red and set something different for the hover color, say green. And I'll also change the font family to this one, for example. Set the font size to 20 pixels. Then we have the line height option. But as my logo text is one word in one line, there's little point in me making changes here. But I can change the letter spacing and set 2 pixels. Now, you might have noticed that I entered the unit of measure when setting the font size, but I've omitted it here. That's just to show you that you don't always have to specify it. The default unit of measure is in pixels, so you don't have to keep entering it everywhere. But if in doubt, or for options that offer a choice between units of measure, you can always specify to be safe. Alright, the option after this one can help us set the font weight. I'll put bold 700. Then I'll transform the text to uppercase, make the style italic, add some text decoration by selecting line through, and use something different for the hover text decoration. There, save changes. And then let's check on the page. Refresh, and there we are. All the changes I made are here. The font, color, decoration, everything. And if I hover, we can see the logo change. Okay, I'll go back and clear all the settings I made. But I hope this has managed to show you how easy it is to radically change the look of your logo when it's textual, and that you can introduce changes on hover that you wouldn't necessarily have with an image. And speaking of the image, as that is the default logo source, I'll restore it before we move on. Also, a note before we leave the logo section. Over in the Mobile Header Logo Options tab, you'll find a logo source option much like the one we just saw. It has the same expanded selection of settings in its dropdown. But as we've already seen how they work, I won't waste your time by going over them again. Okay, I'll save changes before I leave so that the settings I restored earlier are applied, and refresh the page to check that that's the case. Perfect. The next section in line is fonts, but there are no new or additional options here, and the same goes if we look at the typography section. All the options here are already familiar from the previous video, so I'll keep going and open the header section. And right away we can see that the selection of header layouts has been significantly expanded for the premium key theme. The free version had only the centered, minimal, standard, and vertical layouts. The exclusive additions here are the divided layout, the expanding layout, and the vertical expanding layout. We'll be taking a look at all of them in a moment, but there are more premium-only options that I'd like to cover first. As you can see from this reddish-pink frame, the default header layout for the demo I'm working with is standard, and we have a few new options for it. In fact, you'll find these options have been added to all the header layouts to expand your site editing range. And the options in question are these: border follows padding and borders between. To show you the first of these options, I need to have some things preset. That includes the header border color and width. I can't show you anything about the border if I don't have something set for these two, which make the border visible. Fortunately, the demo I'm using has a border already. It's this thin black line under the header. So, since I have a border, all I need is some padding, since we'll be looking at the border follows padding option. I'll set 100 pixels. This will be applied to both the left and the right side of the heading. Save changes, and refresh so we can see it. And there, now the left and right sides of the header content have a buffer of space. With this set, if I go down to the border follows padding option and switch it to yes to enable it, then save changes and refresh, then my header border will match the width of the content and won't cover the space with the padding. Alright, I'll set this back to no and clear the padding while I'm at it. Okay, then we can see what enabling the borders between option might do. Yes, and save changes. Then refresh the page. Now I have the borders between each item in my heading, and my content is closer to the edge of the page, but that's because I erased the padding. We've seen what the option does, so I'll switch it back to no. Next, we have some additions to the top area options as well. I'm going to enable the top areas so I can show them to you. Save changes. As my demo doesn't have a default top area, when I refresh, I'm just going to get this empty light gray space here. You can fill it up with widgets, of course, but for our purposes now, it can stay empty, because what I want to show you relates to the border. Bear with me while I change a few settings. I'll make the top area background color black and the top area border color red. Then I'll set a border width of 3 pixels. And let's save these changes. Then refresh the page so we can see what I've done. There, the top area has a border and all the new colors I set. Now that I have all that, I'm going to add a side padding of 100 pixels to my top area. And the reason I'm doing that is that I can go down to the border follows padding option that we get for the top area and enable it. Save changes. And then go to the page to refresh. And there, just like with the border for the header, the border for the top area has become indented to make room for the padding on both sides. Alright, so that was the addition to the top area options. I'm going to disable the top area now. I just needed it for this show and tell. And save changes. Then refresh the page. Perfect, everything is back to how it was. The next thing we'll be looking at is the header skin. The default one for my demo is dark, and it makes my header content dark and it keeps it visible on a light background. But if I switch this to light, let's see what it looks like. Refresh. My menu has disappeared. Actually, it just changed colors so we can't make it out on a light background. And I still have my logo and cart widget because their color was set within their individual settings. Otherwise, they would have vanished too. But we can see my cursor change as I move, so the content is still there, but we can't see it. To change that, if you want to keep the light header skin, you should, let me just find the option, here it is, you should make the background color darker. I'll use black just to show you, and save changes. Then refresh, and here we go. The menu items have become visible once more. Okay, I'll reset the header background color. There. And go back down to restore the original header skin, which, if you recall, is dark. So even if I set dark instead of default, save changes, and refresh, we will get the same look we had at the start. Okay, I'll just put the setting back to default so it doesn't distract me. Under this, we have an option called the Elementor section before header. If you're familiar with Elementor's template library feature, you'll know that Elementor allows you to save a section or even a whole page as template which you can reuse later on. And any sections you may have saved this way can be added using this key theme option above your header. So that section would rest above the header and it would be visible on all pages alongside your header. In essence, with this option, you can create something like a more elaborate top bar. The section you add can contain any Elementor compatible widget or a combination of widgets you like, so really, the possibilities are limitless. And the stylization can be done the same way you'd style anything in Elementor, so you know working on it is going to be easy and straightforward. The only thing you need to do with this option is select whichever section you want to place above the header from those that you've saved in your template library. Okay, that was the Elementor section before header. But that's not the end of our premium options in this section. We have some additional header options too. They include the Active Menu SVG path. This input field allows you to add any SVG you like to introduce a shape or icon that would denote the active menu item. The active menu item represents the page you're currently on. So if you're on the website's contact page, then the contact page item in the main menu will show whichever SVG icon you added here. The demo I'm using has a relatively simple SVG shape, a vertical line, to mark the active menu item. Let me show you. I'll save just in case I had some leftover changes that need applying. Refresh. And the SVG we came here to see is this, a vertical line next to the home page menu item, as we're currently on the demo's home page. So you can use something like that or create a more elaborate SVG icon. It's up to you. And if you don't want to use this, simply erase the default SVG. Okay. Other than the active menu SVG path, we also have the navigation item icon option as one of the novel additions to the header settings. It also allows us to introduce an icon into the main menu, but at a different level than the option above. To properly show you how this works, I'm going to need a menu with sublevels. And to get it, I'll edit my existing main menu. So let's go to Appearance, Menus. Okay, my main menu is already displayed for editing, so I'll simply find a convenient page to add to it. Say the privacy policy. And I'm going to take that newly added page and make it a sub-item to the shop. Then I'll add another page. Okay, this. And make it a sub-item of my sub-item. Okay, and save menu. And let's check the page front end. Now when I hover, the shop page has one sub-item and that sub-item has another sub-item. And if we look closely between the newly added items, there's this arrow icon. This icon directing us further down the menu levels is, whoops, wrong page. This icon is set using the navigation item icon option. Yes, you have the default arrow, but you can use something else if you prefer. Simply add the appropriate SVG to the right field. I'll demonstrate using the SVG above. I'll copy and then paste it in the field underneath and save changes. Refresh. And when we check the menu, the arrow has been replaced with a vertical line icon thanks to the SVG I added. This allows you to introduce additional style details to a multi-level menu. Alright, I'll remove those sub-items I added. I needed them for the demonstration only. And there, okay. Save menu, and I can close this tab. I'll also clear the SVG I added. There. And save changes. With that, you've seen the additions to the options for setting up your header, irrespective of the layout you may have chosen. But that's not all. There's also a new option that's specific to the vertical header layout. You do get this layout even with the free version of the theme, but the option to add an image to it is exclusive to Key Premium. But before we examine the option, let me show you what this header layout looks like on the demo I'm using. There it is. This is the vertical header layout. And for it, we have this new option called Header Background Image, where you can pick an image to act as your background. I have a convenient pattern image I'm going to use for this. Select Image. Okay, it's there. And we can see underneath that the image is set to no repeat and we have cover set for the image size. So with those conditions, let me save changes, our header, refresh, will look like this. The image is there and it's been stretched to cover the whole surface of the header space. But in reality, the image I used is shorter than this, which means I can change how the header background looks by adjusting the image repeat and image size options in the back end. So let's see some possible combinations. For example, if I set the image to repeat and switch this to contain, then save changes and refresh, now my header background will look like this. And we can see the bottom of the image where it leans on its next repetition. And this repeat setting has the image repeating both along the X and the Y axis, so in all directions. However, you can set it to repeat only along one axis. With repeat X, save changes, and refresh, the image doesn't repeat downwards, only sideways. But the image I'm using is wide enough to cover the width of the header, so we can't see the seam where the repetition along the x-axis occurs. Other than that, we have repeat Y, save changes, and refresh. With this setting, the image is repeated downwards, not sideways. And here we can see the seam between two iterations of the image. Alright, I'll put the image repeat back to its default setting. There. But I'll keep the size set to contain. We haven't tried this combination of settings yet. Save changes and refresh. This is what we get. Only one copy of the image is shown and it is displayed in its original dimensions. This allows it to cover the header width-wise, but it leaves the bottom blank, since the image is too short to reach. So, the settings we've been looking at can help you with the image display, but you should also take care to select an image that will let you stretch it out or repeat it neatly. Another thing you can do is use the image position option to enter which part of the header you want to cover. I'll set bottom and save changes. Then refresh. And here, the image covers the bottom part of the header rather than the top as it did before. Okay, all these image settings are the new options attached to the vertical header layout. So you have more stylistic choices you can make and more room to play. But going back to the topic of layouts, we are going to take a look now at the header layouts that are available with the premium version of the key theme. And the first of those is the divided header. Save changes, and then refresh. And here it is. The divided header puts the logo in the middle and the menu items to either side. What menu items, you wonder? Well, you need a specific menu setting to go with this header layout. I'll show you. So, Appearance, Menus. Ideally, for this, you would create a new menu. Two, in fact. One to go on the left side of the logo and one to go on the right side. However, I'm not going to waste your time doing that right now. Instead, I'll use the menu I got with the demo for our show and tell. Underneath whichever menu you create, you'll have the menu settings section, which lets you pick the location for your menu. As I said, I'll be using the one I already have rather than making new ones. And since the divided header needs one menu on the left side and one on the right side, I'll tick both for the same menu. This is just to show you how it looks. And save. Then refresh the page. And here we are. Each side of the logo has a menu. Granted, it's the same menu, but you'd be making two new ones, each with different items, if you opt for this header layout. So that's the divided header layout. The options you have for adjusting it are the same ones we've covered when looking at the standard header layout in the earlier key theme tutorial. Before we move on to the next one, give me a moment to restore the menu location settings I changed, then save. And I can close this tab. Okay, the next new header layout we have is the expanding. Save changes, and let's see it. Refresh. There. A neater, more minimalist take on the header. It shows the logo and any widgets you add, but the menu is accessed by clicking on this hamburger icon. The menu items appear within the header without blocking my cart widget. Its options are mostly the same as the standard header, but there are a few additions. One is this expanding header menu open icon SVG path field. You can enter custom SVG here to replace the default hamburger icon used for expanding the main menu. I'll paste the SVG for the vertical line icon I used earlier, then refresh the page. And here we are. The vertical line produced by my SVG has replaced the hamburger icon. As you can see, it adjusts to the available space, and it's overall very easy to set something new for your website. I'll clear this now, and save changes. Then refresh. Alright, the default icon is back. And if you choose to keep it, there are a few options you can use to style it. They are in this section right here, and the options for the open icon styles include the color. I'll set red just as an example, and then for hover color I'll set green. I'll make the icon size 30 pixels and give it a side padding of 2 pixels. Now let's see what that looks like, and refresh the page. Okay, the icon's initial color is the red I set. When I hover, it shows the green. It's larger than the default icon, and it's shifted a bit within its holder space to adjust to the padding I added. Finally, this styled icon works the same as the default one when I click to reveal the menu. Alright, let me restore these options to their default values. Just a moment. Okay, and that was the expanding header layout. The last available layout is for the vertical expanding header. Let's see that one. Save changes and refresh the page. This is what the vertical expanding header looks like. It's thinner than the regular vertical header because its menu is hidden under the hamburger icon. You can even see that my logo has shrunk, so if I decided to use this header layout, I'd need to use an image with more appropriate dimensions. Or if you're using text or an SVG icon, then you'd need to adjust them to fit and stay visible. However, the thing that's still fully visible is the cart widget at the bottom and my menu opener icon, which, when I click on it, expands the vertical header to reveal the menu, and the menu stays accessible until you click on the icon to close it. As for the options you get with the vertical expanding header, most of them are the same ones you get with the other header layouts. However, there is something extra here as well, and that is the field for the vertical expanding header menu open icon SVG path. As you might have guessed from the name, it lets us set a custom SVG that will replace the default menu opener, which is a hamburger icon. I'll demonstrate using the SVG I copied way earlier. Save changes, and refresh. Here it is. This is the SVG for a vertical line icon. Pretty subtle, but it serves my purposes. When I click on it, it works just as the default icon did. The menu appears. Next to that, we also have the field for adding a custom icon for closing the menu. That's the vertical expanding header menu close icon SVG path field. I'll paste my vertical line icon SVG and save changes. Then refresh. Now when I click to open the menu, I have a vertical line icon, and that same icon sticks with me when I decide to close the menu. You can, of course, set different icons for this. That's why there are two options, to afford you as much room to customize as possible. Okay, I'll clear this. There. Under that, we have the expanding header menu icon style section. It's there to help us adjust the color, hover color, and icon size of the menu opener icon. I'll show this in a second, but let me first get the default icon back. Save changes, and refresh the page. Okay, there it is. Going back to the options, I'll put red for my icon color. There. Then green as the hover color, and make 30 pixels the icon size. Okay, save. And refresh. Right away, we can see the change. The icon is much larger and it shows its initial and hover colors as appropriate. Alright, that was the icon style section of the options. I'll clear the settings I made now. Just a sec. There. And with that, we've wrapped up the various exclusive options and additional header layouts you get with Key Premium. But that's not the end of our exploration of the header section of the global theme options. Let's go back to the top so I can restore the default header layout standard. Okay, save changes. And then refresh. Alright, it's back. So now we can move on to the next tab in these options, the main menu settings. The novelty here is that you get an extended selection of typography settings for the menu. Namely, there are the inner item padding, background color, background hover color, and background active color options. Let's go through them together. The inner item padding allows us to add a buffer of space around each of the menu items. You can enter one value that would apply to all sides of the item, or you can enter individual ones in the form of top, right, bottom, left. I'll just enter one for now, 20 pixels, and save changes. Then let's check the page. Refresh, and there. Each menu item has 20 pixels all around it. And as you can see, this also forced the menu items to spread out. Let's see what entering different values would result in. I'll set 0 pixels for the top padding, 5 for the right, 3 for the bottom, and 3 for the left. Okay, save changes. And let's refresh the page. There. The menu items are now closer together because there is less padding between them. Okay. I'll go back and clear the padding. Then we can take a look at the background color option. I'll make mine red just to show you. Save changes. And refresh. And here we are. The background color covers each of the items, matching the surface of the space that holds each item within the menu. But you can adjust the background color width and height too by changing the padding. So, back in the inner item padding field, I'll enter 10 pixels and save changes. Now refresh. And there, the background is 10 pixels wider on all sides. Also, the other new options we have can help us with setting up a background hover color. I'll use orange, and the background active color, say yellow, and save changes. Then refresh the page to see what it all looks like. Here we are. I'm on my home page, so the home menu item shows the active background color, and hovering over the items reveals the background hover color I set, while red remains the regular background color. Alright, that's it. I'll clear the settings I just made. One moment. Okay, then save these changes and refresh the page too. Perfect. We have one more tab in the header options, and it contains another premium edition. So let's open scroll appearance settings. The demo I'm using doesn't have a particular scroll appearance set, and to get to the new option I'm going to enable the sticky header behavior. Okay, save, and let's check that it's there. Okay, it appeared once I started scrolling down. It has a lighter background and shows my site logo next to it. The sticky header doesn't include the cart widget. That's deliberate but easily changeable if you like. Simply add what you want in the sticky header area within the Appearance Widgets section of the WordPress dashboard. Now, the option that I enabled the sticky menu for is actually similar to the one we saw earlier when looking into the expanded options for the different headers, and that is the border follows padding. So, to show you what it looks like in practice on the sticky header, I first have to add a side padding. 100 pixels will be more than enough. Then I'm going to enable a border color. Red will do. And set a border width of 3 pixels. Okay, once I have all that taken care of, I can switch the border follows padding option to yes and save changes. Then refresh the page. Alright, let me move to get the sticky header. There. The border has these gaps corresponding to the width of the content padding that I set. Otherwise, the border would reach the edges of the page. Alright, I'll disable this again. And actually, I don't have to clear the settings I made here as I won't be keeping the sticky headers, so I can switch this back to none and take care of everything with one move. And save so the changes are applied. Then refresh the page to get the up-to-date look. Alright, back to the options. We've gone over all the additions to the header section, so we can move on to the next section, the Fullscreen Menu. And there are a few new options for us to explore there. But in order for me to be able to show them to you, I need to have a Fullscreen Menu enabled. I'll do that by going to the General Settings tab and switching to the Minimal Header Layout. We automatically get a Fullscreen Menu with that one. Let me refresh the page so we can see it. Okay, now when I click to open the menu, here it is. This is what it looks like on my current demo. Alright, let's go back to the options and open the Fullscreen Menu section. If we scroll downward here, we'll see a new field, the Active Fullscreen Menu SVG path. It allows us to add a custom icon that would denote the page we're on when we open the menu and lose sight of the page itself. I'll paste in the SVG for a vertical line icon I've been using so far and save changes. Then refresh the page. Open the menu, and here we are. The home menu item has the icon I added, this vertical line, next to it to show which page I'm on. This is a very handy addition to the options, which will help visitors keep track of their location. After that, we have a few additions to the Fullscreen Menu settings section. Now, these options for the Fullscreen Menu will let us change things like the typography of menu items. And one of the new additions here is the inner item padding option. Like the inner padding options we saw earlier, this one also allows us to specify different values for different sides. Remember, the progression goes top, right, bottom, left. Or we can enter a singular value that would apply to all sides. I'll do that and set 20 pixels for my padding. Save changes. And refresh. Then open the menu, and here, my menu items have become more spaced out thanks to the padding I added. All these spaces between them are created by the padding. Now, other than the inner item padding, we also have the background color option as a new one. I'll set red here so we can check it out on the front. And there's the background hover color where I'll select orange as my color. And last but not least of these new options, we have the background active color, which I'll set to be green. Then save changes. Refresh. Open the menu. There. And we can see what the different settings have resulted in. The page I'm actively on has a green background, and the rest have the regular red background. And when I hover over one, it shows the hover background color, which is orange. Alright, I'll go back and reset these. Just one moment. And I need to get the padding too. Alright, these were the additions to the full screen menu options. I use them all at the same time, but you can pick one or mix and match with the existing typography options. It's entirely up to you. Now, since we finished the full screen menu section, I'll restore my default header layout, standard, and save changes. Then refresh. And let's go to the next section of the options, the mobile header. There are a couple of nifty additions here. So with the premium key theme, your mobile header will have the option of using a custom icon as the menu opener. That's done by adding your custom SVG to this field here. I have an example of a mobile display open in another tab. Here it is. I simply use my browser's inspect tools to get this display of my demo that's mobile compatible. There are different dimensions and devices you can choose, but this will serve well enough for my demonstration. So this is the default open icon, a typical hamburger style icon, and you can replace it with something that matches your site design better. I have the SVG for a vertical line icon I copied way earlier, and I'll use it here just so we can see what a change might look like. Paste and save changes. Then refresh the view of the mobile display. And here it is. The hamburger icon got replaced by this vertical line icon, and it automatically works just the same as the default icon did. So it's a matter of simply replacing the graphic you want to use for the open icon. And keep in mind, this is for the mobile header. Your regular site display on larger screens will still have the default icon unless you go and change that one too. Alright, I'll delete this. This was something new for the mobile header, but we also have something additional for the mobile menu. Let's switch tabs. And here in the mobile menu settings, we have a new option called Inner Item Padding. It works like all its namesakes that we saw in the full screen menu and header settings. You can enter multiple values or just one that will apply all around each of the menu items. Before I show you the default padding, I'll save changes because I removed the SVG from the menu opener field and refresh the page. Okay, the default icon is back. Now, if we open the menu, this is what the items look like with the default padding. But I can change that. I simply need to go to the inner item padding option and enter a new value. I'll use 10 pixels. Save changes. Then refresh the page and open the menu. There, the items are more spread out thanks to the 10 pixels of space I added. Okay, that was the padding option for the items in the mobile menu. I'll clear this and save changes. Moving on, the Elements section has been thoroughly covered in the tutorial introducing the key theme, and there haven't been any changes to it. The same goes for the Title section. Then the Sidebar section has some new things, but we won't be looking at them now. Rather, we'll cover them in depth in a tutorial dedicated to exploring all the new and exclusive blog features that you get with the premium key theme. For now, let's jump over to the footer section. We have a couple of premium-only additions here. The footer for my demo, let me get to it on the page. Here it is. It's full width with a border and some dummy content. Now, the new options we have for it, let me find them, are the top border follows padding option and the borders between option. But there's a third option as well. It's not immediately visible as my footer is full width. If I go up and switch the top footer area to being grid, once I've done that, I can go down and see my third option, the top border stretch. We'll look at each one of them in turn, but first I want to save changes and show you what the footer in grid looks like. And there, both the content and the border have shifted to fit within the grid I'm using, which right now is 1300 pixels. For our examination of the options, the more relevant change is that to the border, because if you only want your content to be in grid and not the border, now you have a nifty new option that will help you keep the border stretched full width. That's our third sneaky option, the top border stretch. When I enable it and save changes, then refresh the page, we can see that the border is back to being full width while the footer content remains in grid. So with the premium options, you get this possibility to more extensively customize the look of your website. Alright, I'll switch this off and then go up to restore the whole footer to full width. There, and let me save changes. Refresh. Alright, now let's look at the top border follows padding option. From what we've seen already and its name, you can probably conclude what it does. This option is disabled by default on my demo, as if we look above, we can see that there is already a side padding of 6% set. So I'll just enable this option and we can see what it will look like on the page. There, the border has withdrawn from the edge of the page to match the space created by the 6% of side padding. It's very straightforward. I'll set this back to no. And then we can consider the other new addition to this section, the borders between option. We can see it's already enabled and it's responsible for this dividing line down the middle of my footer. This option actually creates a border between all your footer columns. However, the demo I'm using only has 2 columns, with the right one being subdivided into 2 inner columns. As such, the border enabled by this option doesn't recognize the inner columns as something that needs to be divided. Now, if I go back and switch this option off, save changes, then refresh, the line is gone and my footer content looks like one integral whole. Alright, those were some of the additional ways for customizing your footer that you get with the premium key theme. I'll reset this and save changes, and refresh the page to get my original design look back. Perfect. Now, after these additions to the footer section, there is something entirely new in store. A premium-only section of the global theme options called Content Bottom. The Content Bottom options, and there is one more if we scroll up, allow us to add and customize a new page section. But because that's done here in the global theme options, the Content Bottom section will appear on all your site pages. Essentially, this is a new widget area that's made custom for the key theme. For my demo, it's enabled by default, and it created this section right under the page content but before the footer. If I switch the option to no, let's see that, refresh. There, the additional section is gone. The page content simply leans on the footer and that's it. I'll enable it again so I have access to all the options it has. Alright, now back to the options. The first thing we can do for the content bottom area is set it to be in grid. If I switch this option to yes, it will unveil an additional option, the top border full width. And this is why I activated the grid, to show you this option. Because if we look at the page, the content I have in my content bottom area is too narrow to be affected by the introduction of a grid. But we can see the border dividing the content bottom area from the rest of the page content is still full width, not in grid. And that's thanks to this option here. It's enabled by default and it's what's kept my border from getting narrower when I put the content in grid. I'll switch it to no so we can see what the difference would look like. Save changes and refresh. Alright, we can see the border has moved away from the edge of the page to match the width of the space allowed for the content. Granted, the right-hand side of it overlaps with the border from the column above it, so it seems like it's still there, but it's actually another element's border. Okay, we've seen the top border full width option and the content bottom in grid option, so I can disable the grid, we won't be needing it anymore. Then save changes and refresh the page. Okay, everything is back. And we can take a look at the next option in line. That's the background color. I'm going to set yellow, for example, just so we can see the change. Save, and then move to the page. We can see the default background color matches the rest of the page, but when I refresh, we get the yellow color I set instead. Alright, I'll clear this. Following that, we have a few options for changing the border that divides the content bottom area from the page content. So there's the top border color option, which allows us to set any shade we like for the color of that border. You can use the slider to select your color or add a hex code. I'll use a hex code for this one. It's that simple. Just type in or paste the hex code you want. Alright, there's mine. Then we have the option to adjust the top border width. I'll increase mine to 2 pixels and replace the top border style from solid to dashed, for example. Save changes and then refresh the page. Alright, here's my new border now. It has a different color, width, and style, and we can even see how the part on the right overlaps with the border of the element above it. That's why it looked like this part still had a border when I removed it earlier. Alright, now that we've seen it, I'll go back and restore the original settings for the border options. Just one moment. The color too. Okay, here. And save changes. Then refresh. Okay, all back. One last thing about the content bottom. I mentioned that this is a widget area, and as such, any content you want to add to it will be inserted within the Appearance widget section of the WordPress dashboard options. In the widget overview, simply find the content bottom area and open it to start adding or modifying content. My demo has this HTML here with the link to Instagram, but you can add any widget you like instead. Alright, that was all I wanted here. I can close the tab. Yes, I want to leave. And that was it for the content bottom. Now the next few sections are unchanged, so anything you want to see explained about the search or the side area can be found in the tutorial introducing the key theme. And the new blog portfolio and WooCommerce options will be covered in separate tutorials where we'll focus on each of them in detail. But all this brings us to the custom cursor section. This is another entirely new addition to the global theme options, which is only available with the premium version of the key theme. In it, we have the option to enable a custom cursor, and when we switch it to yes, we'll get several options that will apply to that custom cursor. The first option allows us to pick the layout or look of our cursor. It can be an image we upload, a dot, or a dot with circle. Let me show you the image first. With that cursor layout, we have different options for uploading the image. Each determines when the image cursor will appear, so you can have it only in one situation, when you are hovering over and clicking on a link, for example. Or you can replace the default cursor entirely. To do that, we're going to use the first of these options. Click here to upload your image. I added this one to my media library, so I'd have something to use. Just a note. The image you use for your cursor should be PNG format and no larger than 128 by 128 pixels. Alright, select image and save changes. Then go to refresh the page. Okay, now when I move my mouse, we can see the cursor in the shape of the image I added. So that was the option that replaced the default cursor with the image throughout. I'll remove it now so we can see another possibility. For example, Oh, I mentioned the link earlier, so let's take a look at that one. I'll use the same image again and save changes. Then refresh the page. If I move my mouse now, the image cursor appears over the menu because it's essentially links, and as soon as I move away, it gets replaced by this dot cursor, and it switches back when I hover over something else that's linked. So this is a form of image cursor that is selectively shown, and you can look through the options here to see if you want the cursor to change just for something specific or multiple somethings, or if you prefer to replace it in all situations using the topmost option, default image. Alright, other than the image, we have the dot layout. Let's take a look at that one now. Save changes and refresh the page. Now, instead of the arrow or image cursor, we have this dot. It adjusts its size if something is clickable, and it has a sort of photo-negative color display. It changes colors depending on its background. However, using the dot color option, we can select a color. I'll use red, for example. And then, let me show you. Refresh the page. Now the starting color is different and it switches depending on its background. But if I hover over something black or very dark, then the dot will show the color I set. For everything else, it will still blend the colors depending on what you're hovering over. Okay, I'll clear the color. Here we go. Alright. We have two more options for the dot cursor. One is drag icon. It's a field where you can enter custom SVG and have that appear as the cursor instead of the dot when interacting with any draggable elements. so it can appear selectively just like we saw with the image cursor and the links earlier. And we also have the featured icon field. Again, you can add custom SVG here and it will replace the dot cursor when hovering over a featured section, be it a featured blog post section, a featured portfolio item section, anything like that. Alright, that's it for the dot cursor. The last available layout is dot with circle. It has a few more options than the dot, but if we look at the bottom, at least two of those options are familiar: the drag icon and the featured icon fields. So let's look at what's new. As this cursor layout has a dot within a circle, we have two color options now. I'm going to set something for the dot, say red, and do the same for the circle. Here I'll use green, for example. Okay, by the way, both the circle and the dot have the same color negative setting we saw with the dot earlier. So the colors I selected now are not absolute, but better that I show you directly on the page. Let's save changes and then refresh. Now when we look, here is my dot and circle cursor. The dot moves and the circle follows it. And the same as before, when we hover over a black background, the chosen colors show. Otherwise, both components of the cursor blend colors depending on the background. Alright, that was it. I'll go back to the options and turn off the custom cursor. After this, there is only one section of the global theme options left, the contact form 7. However, everything in here is already covered within the previous key theme tutorial. There is nothing new for us to explore now, which brings us to the end of this video. We've looked at all the new premium-only options and seen how they work. For anything you're interested in but didn't find in here, you can check out the Key Theme Global Options playlist where we have several videos covering the remaining options sections while using more appropriate demos to help us. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, please drop us a line in the comments below. Also, make sure to subscribe to our channel and be the first to learn about any new tutorials and theme guides.